Hey guys, welcome to the add-on guide for World of Warcraft. Basically I'm just going to start with running down a few different add-ons that you can use for your base UI. Obviously there's going to be certain specific add-ons which we'll go into later for different roles, such as a tank will probably need different ones to a healer, and again DPS probably will need different ones, if any at all. So your base UI, as you can see I'm using a completely different to the standard Blizz one. Mine is ElvUI, however there are many other different ones that can do a very similar job. If you don't like the whole complete change in UI completely, then something like a bartender will probably be easier, in which you can just move and add on extra action bars as you see fit. Then you can keep the base standard Blizz UI pretty much intact. However, please be aware that if you do use stuff like this, recommend that you use other add-ons to complement it that improve your bag UI or your cast bars or anything very similar. However, like I say, I'm going to start with using ElvUI and I'm going to show you a few base settings for it. So there's your general setting window. As you can see, it does look very complicated to start with. However, if you're just setting up a base UI, then it's not really that bad to set up. Now on your main page you've got your general, basically all the stuff that works as a general platform for it. The only real thing that I'd say you probably need to change on here is you can accept invites from guild and friends. That'll just automatically accept any invite sent to you. You can vendor your greys, so in your bags, for example, any grey items that you pick up, as soon as you head to a vendor, we'll just get rid of them. Disable your loot frame. Feel free to have a quick scan down any of these. It basically just gives you your base settings for it. And again, if you just go through any of these, it tells you pretty much what they are on the header. These DT bars I'd probably just ignore unless you're confident with what you're doing. They're basically just additional text on your screen to help you with things. Now the main important one is your action bars, and if we open this up, you can see there's plenty of different action bars settings available. You got your first 6 bars. Now if we go down to a plugin, that one can add an extra 4 bars onto it. However, most of the time this isn't needed, but they're there if you want them. So, go down them all. Microbar, that is the bar with all your Dungeon Finder, your guild stuff on, which as you can see on my screen isn't actually anywhere on my screen. This is because I have a second screen on the left hand side that does all that stuff for me. So if you can see down here, that's where mine is. If we go back to the main page, so basically you're just setting them all up 1, 2, 3 right through to 6, and then your pet bar and your stance bar, which is your druid's bar for your forms. The way in which you move them, you just click toggle anchors, and that gives you a very minimalistic really look. Mine looks a little bit more complicated. Again, it's all down to yourself on how you actually place them and where they are on your screen. Again, if I show you the left hand screen, so you can see that side and where and how that appears as well. So if you then lock them, again on here you can set how many buttons you have, how many buttons a row. Basically just general settings on how you prefer your action bars. And if we head to the bags, again, basically speaks for itself. The ElvUI just add in all your bags into one nice, neat fashion. There are plenty of different add-ons if you don't want to use ElvUI that'll do this for you, such as Bagnon, or there's numerous number of add-ons that you can use to do this. I'm not going to go through them all, and just hunt them down if you feel like that's what you want. Now we're back to ElvUI. You've got your general settings here. You can set your sorting. I don't like it, but people do. Searching, and then your bag bar. You can turn this on and off, depending on how you feel. Obviously, you can use your keybinds to do that, but I prefer to have them there anyway. Your buffs and debuffs, again, speak for themselves. You can set them all, your general information, and the size. So again, we're going to toggle on because that's where my buffs appear, and my debuffs are just down here, right next to my action bars where I can see them. And again, you can set what size they are, how many times they repeat on themselves, and basically just go through and you're sorting. There are loads of different things you can mess around with, but again, that's down to you, to how you do that. Chat speaks for itself, most of it. Data bars, that's your XP bar, your honor, etc. They do start linked to one of your chat, so you'd have to move them and change them as you feel fit, or just leave them on your chat. It's completely down to you. Data text, again, it just adds in information. So the main one I use for is on my left screen on my chat. You can see I've got down here little bits of information that help me with a bit more ease, really. And that just comes under panels, and you can set what you want, where you want it. Maps, again, speaks for itself. The only thing I will say is on your minimap, it starts on your minimap buttons with your garrison report and calendar. You may need to unhide these so that you can actually see them. And I like to have my minimap button bar, go back to the middle screen, just down here, to save my minimap getting all clogged up. And again, you can set what you want on there. Nameplates is a little bit more complicated. You can set it however you like. It's basically just have a quick mess around, see what you prefer. This isn't your unit frames, however. This is the frame you see underneath everyone, such as those. If we head back to settings, skins, just basically what skins you want to use on what specific frames. Tooltip speaks for itself. Unit frames now is the one that sets these up. So if I start with the player frame, then you can go through the rest however you feel like with that. So you can basically down at the top set up whether you want to use it. Predict heals is basically, again, just have a mess around, figure out what you prefer. It's down here that's the most important bit. So you can set where the health appears on your bars. So if you see mine's just on the side, if I move it down to the bottom, and you can mess around with that however you like. And you can also set it offset at any point throughout that. And again, you're then just going down, and it pretty much speaks for itself, all exactly what it is. Completely down to you, the size, the width, however you prefer to have them. As you can see, I've got my portrait inside the actual action bar. Now when the health goes down, it also appears on the target. When the health goes down, it does cut off the portrait. So again, it's completely down to you how you use that. You can set them to not appear in there. So you can set it as a 2D model, which looks absolutely terrible. And you can untick the overlay, in which then it'd appear next to your health bar. Again, it's down to you how you use that. And then it's just information, and you can go through and change pretty much everything from cast bar to raid icon when you've got one. That mine appears up there, but again, you can change that depending on where you feel like. And then it's just going through all of them and figuring out what you want where. If you get your player bar set up, then you can just duplicate the settings onto your target bar and onto your focus bar, however you feel like, or adjust them yourself. It's completely down to you. And priorities is this little bar up here. Tells you your stats and the priorities that the stats are. and there should be a PvP section. However, as you can see there, it's not quite been updated just yet. And the rest is basic settings. I wouldn't really need to worry about much about that. Location Plus is this section up here. Tells you your location, and you can set what information you want either side of that and when you want it. Other than that, that's pretty much the ElvUI covered. Again, like I say, it's just figuring out exactly what you want and where you want it. The only thing I would say is you can set different profiles for different specs. If you prefer to have your healing spec with more bars as opposed to your tanking spec with less, or DPS spec with less, again you can stick that little one there, and that'll change it when you change spec. So that's the ElvUI. Relatively straightforward. Nothing really. It does take a little while to set up. However, once you've got it going, it, in my opinion, does look a little bit smoother than the general one. For general UI stuff, there's a couple of other things that I'd say you need, especially if you're using the ElvUI. MoveAnything, which is basically allows you to move absolutely anything on your UI that you feel like. Obviously I use two screens, so most of mine will appear on the left hand screen, but some things do appear on the right, and if I was to not change it, for example my game menu starts off like there, in the middle, which is pretty much standard. So again, it's just depending on how you feel like your screen needs setting up. Loads of things in there. I haven't moved half of them yet, but you can move them as and when you feel like, and they come up. Angry Keystones is another one. If you run in Mythic Plus, very, very helpful. It gives you a basic check on where you're at in the dungeon, your trash count, what affixes are that week, what level you're running, and how close you are to each individual chest. So obviously you can get 1, 2 or 3 chests, and it basically gives you a quick rundown of how far you're off the next chest you are. And the only other thing is a WeakAuras. Now, as you can see at the top, I've got mine set up for just my druid at the moment, and I've got a little bar over here that basically tells me my artifact power, my ancient mana for Suramore, and the eye level in the middle. These are very easy to set up. I will, if you do want some, just write me a message and I can try and get you some set up. I can send that one to you nice and easy. However, each individual ones up there may take a little setting up, just so you can see the UI, the interface bar, the settings, sorry. That's basically what you come up with, so when you can create your own, have a mess around. It does take a little while to set up, again, but if you give me a message I can try and set you something up eventually, whatever you prefer. That's pretty much it for your general UI. Like I said, there are plenty of other different ones that you can use to set up. These aren't exclusive, these are just the ones that I use, so feel free. If you want to mess around with some other ones, then that's perfectly acceptable too. I'm not here to tell you you should be using this one. But like I say, that's it for the general UI settings. We'll move on to other add-ons in the next guide. Thank you very much, and we'll see you soon.